Welcome to the Obesity Medicine Podcast with your host, Dr. Rentea, board certified in internal medicine and obesity medicine. Here, we talk about a path to metabolic health, and we have real conversations about chronic weight management and living a full life. Just a reminder, I am a physician, but I'm not your physician. So everything that's on this podcast is for informational purposes, but please go talk to your doctor about what's right for you. There is no medical advice being given on this podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. How are you all feeling today? Now, I am recording this without my normal microphone that I have. We are traveling, but I sometimes get inspiration for a topic that I want to do. I get a moment alone and I think, why not record this? So sometimes it sounds a little bit different when I don't have that microphone, but I think that the message will prevail. So today I always like to talk about things that either I see with patients or that I'm experiencing myself that I think so many people would benefit from this. And something that I've been going through recently, I have had a lot more hunger, physical hunger than I normally do. I have gone through a medication change here recently. I've gone from being on max dose Wegovy, which is semaglutide. The max amount is 2.4 milligrams. I've been on that for months and months at that max amount. And it wasn't that I wasn't having any progress. If you listen to the podcast leading up to this, I was putting on muscle. I was losing some fat, but it was just at a slower pace than I would expect relative to the amount of effort that I was putting in. And then what I started to notice is even when I'm doing all that work, it's like increasingly I'm not seeing any results. And so I talked to my doctor, and my doctor had actually wanted to do this for a long time, but I was that kind of hemming and hawing because my insurance was covering Wegovy, which is frankly a miracle because we know that a lot of insurance companies don't cover these medications. So the fact that I had insurance coverage, I didn't want to go over to something that I had to pay for, but we finally decided, hey, this would be a good transition to go over from Wegovy to ZepBound, which if you're listening, ZepBound is the same thing as Mounjaro, that's tirzepatide. So I made that transition. And whenever you move over, you always go down on the dose because Wegovy, which is semaglutide, it is just a GLP-1. It's affecting one thing in your body. And when you go over to ZepBound, which is the same thing as Mounjaro, that tirzepatide, it's a dual agonist. So it's not only a GLP-1, it also has GIP, gastrointestinal protein. And so the fact that you have two things that are functioning, a lot of the time it affects people differently. And so it is always a smart move to reduce the dose down when you move over. Oftentimes people don't even need the max amount of tirzepatide compared to semaglutide. Okay, well, that's not been the case for me. So the reason I wanted to talk about this is, so 2 weeks ago, I made this change. So when the week rolled around, instead of taking the Wegovy shot, I switched over to ZepBound, and I take the injection. And in the days to come, I am just famished. I mean, it is next level. And I'm aware of this. You know, this is one of the things that comes with switching over medication. Number one of the things I've realized with my body is that the medications are not like instantly when I take it, I immediately feel the effect. It's usually a day or two until I really feel anything. So I'm here week 2, and I have to say I like tirzepatide a lot more. Just not that I had a lot of side effects on Wegovy, but I'm not experiencing any nausea on tirzepatide. There's just so many, I'm not having any fatigue. It's quite amazing because a lot of people talk about fatigue on this medicine, yet I don't have that. So the bottom line is this, I think this is very much so going to be a good change for me, but I had to deal these past 2 weeks with a lot more hunger. Now, this is not a bad thing. So number one, I just told myself this is 100% not a problem. In fact, I actually like to get hungry with meals. It's actually really nice. When your signaling is very dampened, it's really hard to stay on top of protein goals and to get the fiber that you need in because you feel like you're kind of force feeding yourself. I have never experienced that with the medications, but I have a range of patients and everybody responds differently to these medicines. So number one, I want to talk about today, when you're having increased hunger, what are the things you want to look out for? Let's say you've not gone through a medication change, because that is but one of the many things. When I sort of did an analysis here recently, hey, what could have led to that? You might all say it's the medicine, but actually there were a lot of things that changed here recently. So I'm not going to blame it all on the medicine. So number one, I want to go through like a little inventory. If you're going through a time of experiencing more hunger, the first answer is not always to go up on the dose of medicine. That might be the logical thing that happens in 2 weeks here when I talk to my doctor about what is appropriate to titrate up or not. Ironically, I am actually losing weight again, and I'm feeling much better despite being more hungry. I'm able to eat better on this medication. And ironically, it's because I can do more volume eating, which has always felt good for me. So it's this very tricky situation, right? Because you would assume if I'm more hungry that I'm gaining more weight, but that's not happening. And so I want to go through what are some ways that you could inventory if you're having more hunger, things to look out for. These are sort of like, you know how with organic food, we say the dirty dozen, like, hey, these are the things to look out for. Like, if you can, buy those organic. Okay, these are the things if you're hungry that I think about with patients. And then I want to give you like my top 3 little hit list of I would work on these things if it's happening. And this has actually legitimately helped me. I don't think that it's now week 2 that you're on the medicine. I think that I made some of these changes and this has helped. And again, not everybody can change all this. So let's start out with, if you are very hungry, yes, you can think about med changes, or is there anything obvious that has changed in your life? That is self-explanatory, and you can always talk to your doctor about that. But a lot of the times, keep in mind, like if you are getting your medication from the pharmacy, you're getting a box with 4 pens or whatever the situation is, and your insurance won't cover it again until coming up, you don't have an option but to get through those 4 weeks. And so you still need to be able to troubleshoot other things. Okay, so medications are self-explanatory, but the other things I want you to think about are, has there been any stress level changes? Stress is anything that your body perceives as increased work, a little bit of a burden. Have you been sick in any way with a cold? Have you had more work hours added? Have you just been worrying about a project? Maybe your kid is in a recital. Like, stress can be anything. And so for me, I definitely a few weeks ago increased my work hours. And this was a beautiful thing. I'm so incredibly grateful to do this. There's more patients that I'm serving, and I want to do this. I love seeing patients. I talk about this all the time, but the reality is the hours have gone up that I'm physically in visits. And I used to have a little bit more time to sort of record podcasts and do things like that. And so that was a change. So I just made a mental note. Again, I in no way want to change this. I want to see patients. I want to do these things, but the work hours did go up. So that has always historically been a stress on my body when I work more hours. And it's so interesting, right? Because you can still be exercising and doing all the amazing things, but you just legitimately, if your work hours went up, that could be a stress for you. Or if you got sick, those are always the kind of things I think about. Stress can also be if you have depression and it's just not well controlled, your body is maybe constantly viewing that as a threat. So there's just a lot that goes into that. And then the other thing that it'll be weeks since that time when you're all listening to this, but we recently had a time change here. That was actually 2 weeks ago. And I realized, I feel like when I was young, it's just an hour change for me, right? But I sit there and it affected me so greatly. And I'm so glad that I have friends that say, oh my gosh, me too. And when we were younger, we were like, it was no big deal. But now we're like, the whole week we're having to adjust. And not only that, but we go between Indiana and Illinois often, and there's also a time change. And so again, I was like, okay, so there's a time change as well. My sleep isn't as good. My husband had a procedure recently and he's fine. Everything's great. But I don't care how outpatient and how non-invasive, these things are perceived to be. I worry about things like that. So sleep was affected. Okay, so checklist. We're going down here. Med changed, stress level changed, time zone changes, things like that. Travel, you can throw that all in the mix. You could also throw in here with time changes, also anything that threw you off of your routine. So let's say that you went on a vacation, which you think is amazing, but maybe, again, your sleep changed some, you were worrying some, maybe you stayed up later than normal, like anything that got you off of your routine. Okay, and then the last thing that I throw in here, these are just the big things that I look at, are changes in exercise. And I don't think that people realize, I was talking to a friend about this the other day, how much exercise can increase your appetite. And there are certain types that are going to affect people differently. So I will give you my own personal example, but you can think about your life. So for me, walking is totally fine. It does not make me increasingly hungry. I could walk for 2-3 hours a day and be totally fine. I need more fluids, but I don't feel like I need to eat a lot more with that. Now, strength training, there is something about it that makes me ravenous. And so I'm in this exercise program and I used to just do 10 minutes 3 or 4 times a week. Again, depending on, I think one of the days is a little bit more than that. Well, there's an option to do 10, 20, or 30-minute workouts each of those days, the 4 times a week. And so I started to click on the 20-minute video because, well, I actually really love strength training. I worked with a trainer in college and I love lifting heavy things. I feel like I would just love to lift heavy weights and do those things. And so I naturally was like, I want to do more of this. This feels really good. Well, by the end of that week, so 2 times having done the 20 minutes, by the day 6, when the next workout came, I realized again, was it the med? Was it the sleep? Was it the strength training? Do you see how this can get really complex? And so if I sat there and I had a pity party about, and I'm sorry I keep using that term, I realize I'm using that a lot, but if I sat there and stayed in that mode, I would not get to solving the problem. So here is what I would go through, regardless of what the factors are. I want to go through what are some things that you can practically do about this? So keep in mind, by the way, a lot of the stuff that we talked about, it's going to physiologically drive your hunger. So one of the things, for example, we talk a lot about ghrelin. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone that says you're hungry, start eating. Why would ghrelin go up? Ghrelin is going to go up if you fast long times. Ghrelin will also go up if you are sleep deprived, if stress is up. So there are lots of reasons for your ghrelin to go up. And a lot of the things we just talked about were affecting my ghrelin levels during the day. Okay, so here is the mode that I would go into. I have 4 steps written down here, things to think about. This is not a linear process. This is a curiosity-driven thing where you look at your life and you look at what's in front of you and you see, does any of this apply to me? This is not a how-to. Okay, so number 1, I look at what is your water, protein, and fiber doing. And again, I'm going to use myself as a case study today. But not that I have all the answers. I dramatically increased the fluids. Now I always get a good amount of fluids, but what I basically did, I would say probably on average, I'm getting anywhere from 60 to 80 ounces. I basically decided I'm going to get 100 ounces minimum. But I just realized the increased fluids help me. I've definitely been using flavors. I do count my protein drinks in there. This is just recently what I've been doing. I do 2 Premier protein drinks. I used to really like Fairlife. Right now I'm in a Premier phase with that one protein drink that I said I didn't like, the popcorn flavor. Guess what? I'm loving it with the Javi decaf concentrate. So those are both 30 grams of protein. So those I count in my fluids. And then I twice fill up this. My husband found this thing at Walmart. He thought he was joking when he brought it over to me. If you follow me on social, you'll see it. It's this 48 ounce, like just huge container that can hold your liquid. So it holds 48 ounces. So I do that twice. So I'm getting over 100 ounces of fluids. That has really helped. And then protein, honestly, I'm probably getting 170 grams per day, but it's something where I am 1,000,000% getting over 100. And yes, this is meaning lots of Devotions protein powder, the protein drinks I'm talking about, picking eggs, egg whites, all that kind of stuff. And then fiber, I just really, when I'm very hungry and when this stuff is going on, my body does best with volume eating. So making sure to get that fiber in, get the veggies in. I'm doing lots of cucumbers. I get these mixed salad bags from Walmart. You can literally stick them in the microwave, but I like to do them in the oven just with like a minimal amount of olive oil just so that the taste is better. But it is carrot, cauliflower, and broccoli. I chop those up actually pretty fine because I like to have smaller bites of these veggies. So what I worked on, yes, water is on point. When I say water, that means any beverage. Protein for sure went up. Fiber for sure went up. And if you follow me, by the way, on social, I've been doing on TikTok more of what I eat in a day. The only reason being, I just find that I have learned so much from what other people do, and I figure that I don't see there being a lot of representation out there of vegetarians on a GLP-1. So if that's something that's appealing to you, again, you can follow me over on TikTok. The format is too long to bring to Instagram or any other platform right now. And I'll think about YouTube in the future. Okay. So that is number 1. What's your water, protein, and fiber doing? Do we have any room to move there? That would be the first thing to consider. The second thing would be to look at if you have processed food in your diet. Now, I'm not here to villainize it. I don't care at all if these things work with what you're doing. But what I noticed was that if I would have a bunch of Ruffles potato chips and things like that, it would fuel my hunger more than help me. So I don't care if you're counting calories and it fits in your calories I'm not saying there's no good or bad food, but legitimately the problem we're trying to solve here is hunger. So if I want to be less hungry, then I'm going to need nutritious foods that still have their hydration intact, that are giving me the protein and fiber, that are giving me the micronutrients that I need. And oftentimes the processed stuff just isn't doing that. So if there's a bunch of processed food, like regular noodles, right? They're not the high protein kind, or literally chocolate, things like that. If it's working, fine. If not, can we choose to experiment for a week or two? And this is what I've done. Hey, let me decrease that, maybe even to 0, just to see if it helps. And unfortunately, it always helps. So that is number 2. Okay, number 3. And again, 3 and 4 are interchangeable here. Number 3, I want you to look at your sleep. I want you to look at, are you getting at least for sure over the 6 hour, but are you getting into that 7 hours? Most people are going to need that to be successful long-term, to be able to help out with the hunger hormone levels. And it's going to help with stress. It's going to help with reasoning. Your amygdala, the emotion center of the brain, is not going to be overactive. It is going to be a game changer for you. So if you have a legitimate problem with sleep, these comments are not for you, right? If you have insomnia, that is a medical condition. Some people are not able to fall asleep, or they wake up and they need help. Please talk to your doctor. There are medicines, there are tools, there are strategies. There's cognitive behavioral therapy that is insomnia based. Like, there are things that can be done. Please work with your team. Don't just sit there and suffer. And by the way, sleep is not a perfect thing, right? So it's not like, oh, every single night perfectly I get all the sleep. That is usually a unicorn person that, remember, they don't exist, and we don't think about them as the norm. But look at your sleep quality and look, is there anything getting in the way? So is your work, for example, abutting your sleep too narrow of a time interval, and you don't have time to actually come down from the day to be relaxed, and then you end up waking up in the middle of the night, or you end up waking up early, and some of that can kind of be cortisol based. And so that would be something to look at. Are you someone that maybe you binge Netflix shows at night, which I have no problem with, but it is a problem if you have a bedtime, or hey, this is the time when I kind of need to start to wind down and turn these things off and go to sleep. And you think, oh, I just want to watch one more episode. And so you end up staying up another 1, 2, 3 hours. Really question what is happening there. Am I fully supporting myself getting sleep? If you all knew how insane I am about my sleep time. It's just, we're going to get that sleep. I have to laugh. There was a patient that wanted to see me on a Monday night at 9 p.m. And here's the thing I had to say. This is not someone that was even established with me yet, but they were asking if that could be an option. And I honestly had to say to them, I'm literally asleep at that time. I go to bed pretty much at 9 o'clock because I get up early in the morning. So if a patient is going to want a Monday night at 9 p.m. time to see me, that's just not going to be a time I can accommodate. I do a lot of accommodating, but that is not something I can do. So I knew right out the bat, this person does not need to establish with me because I cannot accommodate this, right? I am asleep. I prioritize my sleep in this time zone. A 9 p.m. is going to be a no for me. So that's an extreme example. But the point is, you need to have the boundaries that this is a hard no for me, that I go to sleep. That might sound like an extreme example, but the point is this: I have such a routine where I know, okay, we kind of wind down at this time. My husband always jokes that Toby, my 4-year-old, that me and him have the same bedtime, which is not true. I mean, he goes to bed maybe 30 minutes before me. But the point is this: I can't get up early in the morning. I'm very much so that morning lark, if you would. So I can't get up in the morning if I have not gone to bed when I say I will. And I also just don't feel good. So I want you to look at, you might not be a 9 p.m. going to bed. Of course you're not going to be. That's actually very rare when I say that to people. But the point is, are you getting enough sleep for what you need? I realize I feel incredible when I get the sleep, and I would pick sleep over anything else. I would pick sleep over getting up early for a morning workout if I didn't feel good. Sleep will always be the priority here. So just kind of do an inventory and see. I think a lot of the times what I see is this trap. I see this particularly with moms, but that this is the me time, that this is the time finally when the kids are in bed, or if you're a busy working professional, maybe your life looks different, but you view like this is finally the me time. Like maybe you're in corporate America and like all day long I've been giving to other people, and now finally this is the time I get back. And I hear you and I respect that, but do we want to actually use some of that for sleep and not just sitting there scrolling and doing other things that, while I have no moral problem with you doing that, I want your metabolic health to be in the best spot. So just consider, just play around with it. Be curious. You can keep doing all the things you're doing, but just question, is it playing into my hunger? Okay, the last thing I have on here, the last thing that I put on here is I know this is an inflammatory term when we say calm down, but to really restore a little bit. And so I need you to look at if you are overdoing it in certain areas. And so I'm going to come back here to the exercise example. So I actually had to cut back to the 10-minute workouts, the strength training part. Again, the walking can be whatever it wants to be for me. I have had to go back to the 10 minutes. And it's fascinating, right? Because a lot of us always think more is better. We think that it's going to get us further. We're going to lose weight faster. We're going to put on muscle better, all those things. And it's actually not been true for me. So I have been tracking that InBody for a long time. And I, with the 10 minutes a day, actually continue to put on muscle, which is fascinating, right? Because I would always think in my mind that I need more. But my body apparently, and it could just be the type of person I'm working with because they're highly efficient at what they do. But the point is that I need you to be curious. I need you to be curious if what you're doing is the exercise too much for you. Now, so here's the funny thing. When I say, kind of restore and calm down, do things like that, do you need to decrease the exercise? For some of you, it might actually be to exercise. It might actually be you need a way to process your emotions. You need a way to calm down. You need a way to re-regulate. I talk about this a lot, that walking for me is actually a way that I stay grounded. It is a way that I stay focused. It is a way that I am a very much better mom, wife, person to be with because I am just pretty darn happy and calm majority of the time. And I'm not naturally that way if I don't work at it. Patient said to me the other day, "Oh, how are you always happy?" Or I don't know, they said some type of comment. I didn't wake up that way this morning. I actually felt horrible. I used a different word. And I said, but I did my walk and I did the strength training and I had the breakfast and I did the water and I did the decaf coffee and I'm feeling amazing right now. You need to look at what are the pieces that you actually need. Now, today we're specifically focusing on hunger. And I have to tell you, with me doing all of this, right? So what happens? 2 weeks ago, I start to notice hunger goes up, med change, time change, work hours change, strength training change, all these kind of things. Okay, there's lots of culprits. What do? I increase the water. I increase the protein. I'm vigilant with fiber. This actually meant a period of structured eating. I normally don't count calories and measure and weigh food. I had to do it because my hunger was so high that my eyes were not keeping track anymore with what my body needed. And so I did that. The other thing that I did, in full transparency, I had to eat a lot slower. So keep in mind that there's a delay between your stomach getting food, the stretch receptors, all of that, and your brain getting the signal. I really was very intentional with that. And then I really looked at, are there other things here? Again, I actually follow a rather healthy diet all the time, but there were some areas that I could clean up. It's always the chips that kind of creep their way back in. So I worked on that. And I'm not saying that I don't have any processed foods. You'll see I really love pretzels, but again, the pretzels don't do the same thing to me compared to some of these like Lay's chips. It's just really fascinating. So potato chips just act differently to me compared to pretzels. It doesn't make sense all the time what it is that's happening for you, but you need to be curious with your own body. Then I really looked at the exercise. I did have to peel back the strength, even though I wanted to do more. And I'm not saying I won't do more in the future, but just right now, it was not compatible with what I wanted to achieve. And then my sleep, what I noticed was with the increased hours, it would abut the sleep too closely. And so I had a harder time calming down at night. My sleep suffered, the time change, all of it. So this was a case study today that I did with myself. When times feel hard, you've got to be a detective. So it's not, I don't always have this level of hunger. In fact, now it's very interesting. Having done this for a few days, once I noticed that I was increasingly hungry, and I noticed and I started to get curious for a few days, not everything changed at once. Then it took me probably 4 or 5 days of having decreased the exercise, having increased all this stuff, that now it's not out of control. I still wake up really hungry. In fact, it's almost harder to do the exercise in the morning and then do other things. I'm having to kind of rearrange stuff. But the point is, you can be curious and you can figure this stuff out. Now, likely it is helpful to work through this with someone. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a hero and understand all of this on my own. I am always in programs. I am always learning things. And so that can be incredibly helpful. Something I wanted to tell all of you is that probably coming up in the fall time, so probably September for a 12-week period, I'm going to have a small group coaching program. We're going to meet weekly. It's just going to be fun, accountability. It's going to be different than the programs I've done before. And the reason I'm sort of thinking about this and wanting to do this is because I'm realizing that these are the reasons that I continue to be able to figure this stuff out. You can know all the information in the world, but if you don't know practically how to apply it, or you don't know how to have the mindset, I'm going to figure this out. What am I going to do this week? If you don't know that type of area, it's going to be very hard for you, even with all the knowledge in the world, to practically apply it. And so this isn't going to be something that's going to be a big group. It's going to be very small, but I'm excited about that because I find that is really what's keeping me going here recently. I actually talked to my friends about, hey, here's what's going on. Here are the things I'm trying. They give me some feedback. And I think that in groups, even just saying what the problem is, you will gain a lot more clarity. So if that's something that you're interested in, remember, a lot of these things, to be honest, I don't even talk about them on social because I feel like stuff really doesn't get to many people when you put stuff on social. So that would always go to my email list. If you want to get on that, again, it's just an email on Monday mornings. We let you know about the podcast that you're listening to right now. So you know what the topic is and things like that. And if you want to get on that email list, you can go to Rentea Clinic, RENTEA, and then the word clinic.com/blog. And on the right-hand side, you can subscribe to the Obesity Guide with Matea Rentea, MD, our newsletter that goes out weekly. And then you would know when things like that come up. But I think that's going to be the only live thing that I'm doing this year. The program that I have, the Optimizing Fat Loss and Maintaining Muscle on a GLP-1, I am loving how that community is growing. That is a course that you have access for a year. I do once a month a question and answer in there. And so there is a live component, but it's not the same as, having for a few month period an accountability group, a small group coaching, like really sort of having that energy. I hope that today's episode was helpful for you. If you are loving this podcast, I would love if you leave a review if you have not done that. That really helps us to get the word out to other people that there are realistic, sustainable ways of doing this that will not require you to get into diet culture. If you notice, everything that I brought up today, it really was just me looking at my own life. It wasn't looking at what other people are doing. I'm getting curious about my own life. There's nothing unrealistic. It felt really good how it was happening. In fact, I was quite shocked that I could be so hungry and so not panicked about the whole situation. I just want to bring that up if any of you are following along, that you can do things in a way that does not require you to feel absolutely horrible about it. And that's not the norm out there. If you leave a review, it really helps other people to know that this is an option. It might suggest it to them, and make sure to share it with your friends. All right, we'll be back soon. That marks the end of today's episode. But if you're newer to the podcast, I want to tell you about something that we have, and it's a free podcast roadmap. So this is perfect for any of you that are listening where you want to be directed to very specific episodes. So let's say that you are just starting out and you want to know, what should I do right when I start on the medications? Or you're experiencing certain side effects on the GLP-1s, or you want to know what to do if you're in a plateau, or if emotional eating is taking over, or if hunger levels are high. So we have many different categories of episodes that we've talked about, because there's a lot at this point. So if you want to be able to navigate that very easily, we have it broken down by category, and also the episodes that are there, and we hyperlink to everything. So you can just click on it and find the episode, easy peasy. If you want that, you can go to renteaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. We'll have it linked right here underneath the show notes where you're listening. And you can go ahead and get that free resource so that it makes it easy for you to navigate, because I know that it's really hard when someone has an established podcast. I am such a podcast fiend, listening to podcasts all day long. And when I find one that I love, but there's a lot that are out there, I am so lost. So I hope that you enjoy this free podcast roadmap. Again, the link to get to that is going to be renteaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. I hope this is helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.